Across the silent reach of the galaxy, where stars burned like distant memories, thousands of scanners flickered awake as if something unseen had shaken the universe. On every screen, from the smallest research outpost to the grand halls of the Galactic Council, a strange movement appeared, slow, steady, and terrifyingly calm. No one recognized the shape. No one had seen anything like it in any archive, any record, any forgotten legend. The object moved like a heartbeat drifting through space, glowing in deep red pulses that felt alive, almost suffering. The Galactic Council chamber froze as the image sharpened. It was not metal, not stone, not energy. It was alive. A living ship with veins that glowed like molten blood. An entire fleet of such creatures moved in silence across the Perseus arm, and even the bravest warriors felt a cold weight settle inside their chests. The council alarms screamed through the chamber before the delegates could speak. Designation: Category Red. Level: Extinction. Every species in the room felt its breath stop. Category Red meant absolute doom. Category Red meant something capable of wiping civilizations off the map. Category Red meant the end of worlds. It had been declared only 3 times in all of history, and each time galaxies went dark. And yet, this time felt different, heavier, colder. Because the living red ships were not just entering space, they were moving with purpose. Not wandering, not spreading, not scanning. They were heading in a straight line, toward human territory. No other species understood it. Humans were not the oldest, not the richest, not the strongest. They were stubborn, emotional, unpredictable, but never the type to attract extinction-level threats. Alien diplomats whispered theories, their voices shaking. Some said the red species wanted human planets for fuel. Some said humans had angered them unknowingly. Some said maybe the red species wanted a weak target. But the fear behind every whisper was the same. What if the red species was not hunting humans? What if they were running from something worse? On the borders of human space, lights began shutting down. First long-range scanners flickered, then satellites dimmed. Then entire planetary networks went dark as if a cold fog swallowed their signals. Engineers hammered screens. Officers shouted commands no device obeyed. And slowly, terrifyingly, silence replaced every sound. Inside Terran Command, the emergency siren echoed through metal corridors. Unknown contact. Possible hostile. All forces prepare. Human fleets moved without hesitation. Battleships glided into formation like silent guardians. Soldiers stood at their stations with tight jaws. Pilots strapped into cockpits with shaking hands, trying to hide their fear. But when the red species arrived, they did not fire a single shot. Instead, the lead red ship slowed, its glowing veins dimming like a dying heart, and released a soft vibration that drifted across space like a whisper. A message appeared on every human screen. We need to talk to humanity. Alone. The galaxy's reaction was immediate. Entire empires froze. Hundreds of species panicked. Civilizations held their breath. Why humanity? Why speak only to them? Why show no aggression? Terran Command accepted the meeting, but no one felt brave. Even the strongest human admirals felt tension crawl inside their bones. A diplomatic chamber was prepared on the human ship Solstice, filled with guards and scientists who were trained for conflict, not fear. Finally, the doors opened. The alien who entered looked nothing like the creatures of ancient myths. It was tall, elegant, glowing softly with red patterns beneath translucent skin. But its eyes were old. Older than any empire. Older than most stars. Eyes that had seen too many endings. It stepped forward, then slowly, painfully lowered itself onto one knee. Every human froze. Every alien watching through council screens felt their hearts twist. No one expected this. Not from a Category Red species. Not from a supposed extinction-level threat. The creature lifted its trembling head and spoke in a soft voice that carried a deep sadness, almost like someone who had lost everything. We did not come to harm you. His voice broke, just a little. We came here because we are afraid. Humans exchanged confused looks. Aliens watching across the galaxy felt a deeper fear settle inside their chests. The creature continued, each word shaking as if it carried 1,000 ghosts. We fled across galaxies, leaving behind worlds, suns, families, lives. His eyes dimmed. We ran from the one thing that hunts us, the one thing we cannot fight, the one thing even our strongest dread. Silence thickened like smoke. A human ambassador finally whispered, "What do you fear?" The creature looked at him, its voice almost breaking. "You." The room shattered into breathless shock. Humans stared in disbelief. Aliens trembled in horror. The council chamber erupted into chaos. But the creature kept speaking, because fear had already swallowed its dignity. "We did not fear your weapons. We did not fear your fleets. We did not fear your wars." Placed its hand on the floor, trembling. "We feared what hunts you." The words felt like a knife piercing the galaxy. The red species had crossed unimaginable distances, lost entire civilizations, risked everything, not to fight humanity, but to warn them. And in that moment, a heavy truth settled across every star system. Humanity had become the ultimate threat category. Not because they desired destruction, not because they built monstrous weapons, not because they were violent, but because something ancient, something unseen, something powerful enough to make an extinction-level species kneel, feared humanity more than anything else alive. And if such a creature feared humans, then maybe the rest of the galaxy should too. The chamber remained painfully silent as the red species leader stayed kneeling, its trembling hand pressed against the cold metal floor. The soft red glow under its translucent skin flickered like a candle fighting to stay alive. Everyone in the room felt something strange. Fear, yes, but also a deep sorrow, the kind that only comes from a long, hopeless journey. The human ambassador stepped forward, unsure what to say, unsure how to react to something so powerful kneeling before them in desperation. He opened his mouth, but the alien spoke first, his voice shaking like someone who had carried a burden too heavy for too long. "We were not always like this," the creature whispered. Its eyes dimmed as memories pulled it away from the present. "We once lived in peace, in light, in harmony. Our worlds glowed red like dawn. Our oceans were warm. Our skies shattered with colors beyond the spectrum. We never knew fear." Its voice began to break. Until it came. Everyone leaned in, breath held, as if hearing the name of something forbidden. But the creature did not speak a name. It simply trembled because some horrors are too great to name. "It hunts stars," the alien continued, a soft tremor running across its glowing veins. "It devours energy, planets, suns, life. We tried to fight it. We failed. We tried to hide. Found us. We tried to flee, and still it followed." Its eyes lifted, filled with a sorrow that felt ancient. "And before it destroyed our last world, it said something we never understood. Not until now." Humans leaned forward. Aliens across the galaxy stiffened in their seats. The silence felt like a hand tightening around every throat. The alien spoke slowly, each word heavier than the last. It said, "Run to your galaxy. Run to the ones who broke fate. Run to the species that never dies. Run to humanity." A chill spread across the chamber like a cold wind passing through souls. Even the guards, trained to show no fear, felt their hands tighten on their weapons. The human ambassador felt his heart pound. Aliens watching from the council screens exchanged horrified glances. No one understood. Why humanity? Why them? What did they break? What fate did they defy? The red leader lowered its head again, voice trembling. "We did not know why it feared you. We only knew it did. It spoke your name like a curse and a warning." Humans stood frozen in confusion. No memory, no archive, no history explained why a galaxy-consuming predator would fear them. They had no secret weapon, no ancient god, no lost technology. And yet this extinction-level species trembled at simply speaking the story. The alien continued, tears forming inside its glowing eyes. Not water, but small shining droplets of red light. "We crossed 12 galaxies. Do you understand? Its voice trembled harder. 12 galaxies of loss. 12 galaxies of dying worlds. 12 galaxies of silence where our children once laughed. Our skies once sang. Our oceans once danced. It pressed its hand against its chest, where the glow brightened painfully. Every time we built a new home, it found us. Every time we ran faster, it caught us. Every time we begged the universe for mercy, it gave us none. Humans felt something twist inside them. Sympathy, confusion, fear for something bigger than themselves. Even alien leaders who hated humanity felt their anger fade for a moment, swallowed by something deeper. The creature's voice dropped into a soft, heartbreaking whisper. And then, it said only one hope remains. A long pause, not dramatic, emotional, like someone trying to breathe again after drowning. It said, "If humanity cannot stop me, no one can." Humans stared in stunned silence. Aliens broke into fearful whispers. The galaxy shook, not physically but emotionally. Humans had never asked to be feared. Humans had never asked to be hope. Humans had never asked to be hunted by something that devoured galaxies. The alien lifted its hands, showing scars glowing faintly along its arms. Scars not of physical wounds but of something deeper, older, burned into the soul of an entire species. We came here not to surrender, not to ally, not to fight. His voice cracked fully now. We came here because we had nowhere else left to go. It looked directly at the human ambassador, eyes shimmering with the weight of trillions of lost lives. We came here because we believe humanity has survived something no one else could. Humans stiffened. What had they survived? What history had been forgotten? What darkness had they endured without knowing? The alien bowed its head once again, but this time there was no strength left in the movement, only exhaustion. Our worlds are dead. Our suns are fading. Our children have nightmares they cannot explain. Our memories crumble with terror. A soft sob escaped its glowing throat, a sound so fragile it made even hardened warriors blink away emotion. Please, whatever strength your kind possesses, whatever fate you once defied, whatever makes the darkness fear you, we need it. Silence swallowed everything. Not fear this time, grief, pain, a plea. Humans looked at each other, confused, afraid, unsure if they were worthy of such hope. Aliens felt their hearts tighten with a new understanding. The red species did not kneel out of weakness. They knelt because humanity stood at the center of something old and terrifying. Finally, the alien lifted its shaking gaze. If we stand near you, maybe it will hesitate. A trembling breath. If we stand behind you, maybe it will fear us too. His final words hit the galaxy like thunder. If we stand with you, maybe we will survive. And in that moment, the weight of the universe shifted. Not toward war, not toward unity, but toward a truth no species wished to admit. Humanity had become the one thing even extinction feared. The galaxy did not know whether to take comfort in that, or to run from it. The air inside the human diplomatic chamber felt heavier now, as if the universe itself leaned closer to listen. The red species leader remained kneeling, but his trembling slowed. He was no longer just a survivor. He was a messenger carrying the burden of a dying cosmos. His words had shaken the room, but the weight of what he revealed was only beginning. Terran Command ordered immediate scans. Human scientists rushed to their stations, their eyes wide with urgency. They began downloading the memory records the alien had brought. These were not normal files, they were living fragments, biological memory crystals grown inside the red species themselves. Each one pulsed with faint light, as if holding the echoes of planets now lost. When humans connected their scanners to the first memory crystal, the room fell silent. A hologram burst alive in the center of the chamber, showing a beautiful red world glowing under twin suns. Vast forests shimmered like fire. Oceans glowed with crimson waves. Creatures soared through the skies on wings of living flame. Then the vision changed. A shadow appeared on the horizon. No form, no shape, no body. Just a darkness that moved like smoke made of gravity. It drifted over mountains, dimming sunlight behind it. The twin suns flickered weakly, as if bowing to the unwanted visitor. Every human watching felt a coldness settle in their chest. Every alien watching through the council's feed felt their skin crawl. The red species leader lowered his head as the hologram shifted again. The shadow touched the planet's surface. The sky cracked like broken glass. Trees dissolved into dust. Cities fell silent. Creatures collapsed without a sound. In mere seconds, a world filled with life turned into a silent red desert. A gasp rose across the chamber, even from those who had never gasped in their lives. Then the shadow spoke, not with words humans understood at first, but with a deep vibration that rattled bones, shook metal, and made the hologram itself glitch with fear. The translator struggled for several seconds, then displayed a single sentence. Running again? Run to the humans. I want them to hear you scream. Humans felt every hair on their bodies rise. The red leader placed a shaking hand over his chest, glowing faintly. This was the last message my home heard. Humans stared in horror. Aliens felt cold sweat form under their armor. The scientists moved to the next crystal. The hologram shifted quickly, this time showing distant galaxies, 12 in total. Each one showed a red species colony, each one thriving, each one full of life. And then one by one, they vanished beneath the same descending shadow. There were no battles recorded, no resistance, no explosions, just silence, the kind of silence that breaks civilizations. Human officers clenched their fists. The ambassador swallowed hard. The red species leader raised his trembling voice again. We tried to fight. We built weapons that could crush moons, but they fell apart in its presence. We created shields powered by living stars, but the moment it touched them, they turned to ash. We fled into the outer void. It followed us as if distance meant nothing. He paused, but his eyes didn't blink. None of us understood why it hunted us so relentlessly. He pointed a trembling finger at the humans. Until it spoke your name, the room erupted in soft whispers. The humans looked at each other, confused, afraid, trying to remain strong, yet unable to ignore the rising fear. The red leader's eyes glowed dimly, filled with grief. We asked ourselves, why humanity? What had your people done? What history do you carry that even a cosmic predator fears? Humans could not answer, because they didn't know, because their history was short, because they were young. But something in the red leader's trembling voice made them realize, maybe their history wasn't as simple as they believed. Maybe something had happened before recorded time. Maybe something slept in their DNA. Maybe something ancient had marked them. The hologram flickered again. This time it showed something more terrifying than any destroyed world. A black void, endless, cold, alive. A massive, swirling cloud of gravity and hunger, stretching like a living wound across the stars. No shape, no face, no mercy. The scanners labeled it predator entity, unknown, origin, beyond observable space. Human scientists froze. Alien empires watching the broadcast screamed orders. Council delegates fainted from shock. The predator entity began moving through the hologram, but something strange happened. Every time it destroyed a world, it slowed. Every time it approached something linked to human outposts, human colonies, human routes, it hesitated, like a predator approaching fire, like something ancient recognizing its only threat. The red leader whispered, "It fears you, but fear does not stop it. It only delays it." Humans remained silent, their hearts heavy. The alien continued, voice breaking. "When we fled past the 12th galaxy, it spoke again. We never forgot its words." He repeated them in a soft, trembling tone. "They beat me once. They should not have survived. I will not allow them to rise again." Every human in the chamber felt a jolt deep inside their soul, as if something buried long ago suddenly trembled. Beat it? When? How? Human history recorded nothing of such a battle. But the predator entity remembered, and it hated them for it. The red leader lowered his head once more, but this time his voice was painfully emotional. Humanity, whether you know it or not, you have already faced this creature. A long pause. No one breathed. And somehow, you survived. The room felt like the air had vanished. Humans trembled without meaning to. Aliens whispered in terror. The red species leader's final words shook the galaxy. We came here because if you defeated it once, maybe you can do it again. He bowed his head fully, trembling from exhaustion. Please help us. And in that moment, the fate of galaxies shifted quietly, painfully, toward a truth no one wanted to believe. Humanity was no longer just a species. Humanity was a scar on something ancient. Humanity was unfinished business for a cosmic monster. And the monster was coming. The hologram of the predator entity still floated above the chamber floor like a living scar in space, but now it began to flicker, breaking apart as if even the memory of that creature carried too much weight for machines to hold. Humans watched in silence. The red species leader remained kneeling, his eyes dimmed and full of terrible memory. It was not just fear. It was trauma carved so deep it had become part of his bones. But before anyone could speak, a sharp alarm pierced the chamber. A human officer rushed in, breath shaking, face pale. Admiral, you need to see this. The ambassador, Terran command officers, and even the red species leader stood slowly, dread tightening their chests as they followed him. They expected another memory, another warning, another recording of distant galaxies burning. But what awaited them was much worse. In the command center of the solstice, the main screen glowed violently red. Human officers scrambled around, trying to stabilize thousands of failing readings. Data streams ran wild. Lights flickered. The room pulsed with fear. Sir, the officer whispered, something is entering our galaxy. Every human heart dropped. The red species leader collapsed to his knees again, this time without control. His body shaking violently as if recognizing a nightmare arriving in real time. Impossible, he whispered. It was too far. It should not be here yet. We should have had more time. But the truth was already on the screen. A wormhole, massive, violent, unnatural, tore open beyond the edge of known space. Not like normal wormholes which spiraled beautifully. This one ripped reality like a wound, leaking darkness into the stars. Human scientists tried to analyze it, but the data corrupted instantly, igniting sparks across consoles. Alien observers across the council panicked as their screens turned black one by one. Then the wormhole stopped expanding. Everything went silent. In that silence, even space felt afraid. A tremor ran through the ship as the first shadow emerged from the tear. It did not have a shape. It did not have a form. It simply existed, pure darkness bending light, crushing gravity, swallowing every signal sent toward it. Several human officers staggered backward, their breath stolen. The red species leader whispered a single trembling breath. It found us. The predator entity drifted forward, slow and calm, like a beast that had been hunting for so long it no longer wasted energy. It was not rushing. It was not attacking. It was simply moving toward them. Humans instinctively stepped back, though the creature was light years away. Their bodies reacted before their minds did. Something old, something instinctive, something coded into the soul of every living being screamed for them to run. All across the galaxy, civilizations stared into their screens, their hearts collapsing inside their chests. The predator entity finally spoke. Not through speakers, not through translation systems, not through sound. It spoke inside their minds. Its voice felt like falling into a cold ocean, like being buried alive, like every fear a person had ever hidden being dragged into the light. Humanity. Every human on every ship felt the word like a claw closing around their heart. I have finally found you. The red species leader clutched his chest, crying silently from terror. Humans stood frozen. Aliens fainted or collapsed. The voice continued, deeper, heavier, dragging across their minds like iron chains. You survived when you should have perished. Human officers looked at each other in confusion. What survival? What past? What history? What battle had they forgotten? The creature pressed into their thoughts again. You broke fate. Your kind was never meant to live. A heavy darkness spread across the chamber, not physical but emotional. Like hope itself was sinking. The predator entity drifted closer to the edge of human-controlled space. Systems across the border began dying. Space stations lost power. Ships turned silent. Entire star systems flickered like candles about to go out. Terran Command shouted orders. Activate shield lines. Prepare the fleets. Bring all civilian ships into safe zones. But nothing stopped the wave. Every defense system that came online immediately short-circuited and died. Every satellite shattered under invisible pressure. Every star dimmed slightly, as if the creature's presence alone swallowed light. The predator entity spoke again, and this time there was no coldness, only rage. I warned the 12 galaxies they could not hide you. Humans felt the room spinning. Red species survivors collapsed. Alien Council members screamed at their screens. You scarred me once. You should never have existed again. A human scientist whispered. Scarred? Humanity? When? How? There was no answer, not from the humans, not from their memory, not from their technology. But the entity answered. Do you truly not remember what you did to me? The words hit humanity like a physical blow. The red species leader cried out, voice filled with raw pain. It is coming. You must act. Do something. But something strange happened. The predator entity stopped moving. It hovered at the precise border of human space and did not cross. It wasn't hesitation. It wasn't weakness. It was something else. Fear. The creature feared crossing into human territory. Even though it could crush planets, even though it devoured galaxies, even though nothing had ever stopped it, something inside human space made it pause. Terran command officers watched with wide eyes as the creature trembled for the first time in the hologram's flickering image. It whispered, not again. The entire galaxy froze. Not again. Humans had defeated it before. Humans had survived something ancient. Humans carried a history buried in the dark. The entity roared, not in sound but in emotion. The roar forced several humans to their knees, clutching their heads. You should have stayed dead. Human ships shook. Lights shattered. Panels exploded. But still, the entity did not cross the border. The red species leader stared in shock. It fears your territory. It fears something inside you. Something you do not even know you possess. The chamber fell into terrified silence. Outside, the predator entity drifted slowly, circling human space like a beast testing the edge of a cage it once broke. Humanity finally understood one thing. They were not facing a new enemy. They were facing an old one, and it wanted revenge. The predator entity hovered at the edge of human space like a wound in reality, an ancient shadow twisting the starlight around itself. For the first time since its arrival in this universe, the creature hesitated. It drifted back and forth like a beast pacing outside the door of a house it once invaded and barely escaped alive. Human commanders stared at their screens, fear tightening in their chests. Officers whispered in disbelief. Scientists froze mid-movement, unable to understand how something so powerful could tremble before crossing a border. Inside the Solstice command chamber, the red species leader stared at the sight with wide, horrified eyes. His entire body shook, glowing faintly, his species' natural reaction to overwhelming fear. But then something else flickered inside him. Confusion. The kind of confusion that carries desperate hope. It cannot cross, he whispered. His voice sounded like someone waking from a nightmare they had lived for decades. A human officer turned to him. Why? What is stopping it? The alien shook his head. I don't know. But something inside your space terrifies it. The predator entity drifted closer again. Human ships shook violently, their hulls screaming from the pressure. Entire star systems flickered. Civilians on distant colonies prayed, cried, hid with their families. Some looked at the sky as if expecting it to crack open. And yet, the creature stopped again, right at the edge, unable to move forward. Terran Command watched in growing shock. It's afraid, a human scientist whispered. Something about us, something about humanity, scares it. The red species leader bowed his head, this time not in fear, but in grief. You do not understand, he said softly. You think you face a monster searching for prey. But no, it searches for you because you are the only ones who ever wounded it. A heavy silence filled the room. Humans looked at each other, confused, overwhelmed, unsure what to believe. We have no record of such a battle, the ambassador said. Humanity is barely a few thousand years old in space. How could we fight something ancient? The alien shook his head again. Your technology did not defeat it. Your weapons did not harm it. Something else did. Something older. Something deeper. He paused, voice trembling. Something inside your species. Something you inherited without knowing. On the screens, the predator entity suddenly expanded, stretching like a storm ready to strike. Human fleets braced, shields charged, emergency sirens echoed across systems. The entity spoke again. This time the voice was not just cold. It was filled with rage that shook human hearts. You cannot hide behind fate again. The translator flickered, struggling to process the raw emotion flooding through. You are still fragile, still unformed, still weak, but the spark remains. Human officers exchanged terrified glances. What spark? What secret? The entity pressed harder against the border. Human ships bent under impossible pressure. Alarms exploded with red light. Panels shattered. Entire crews fell to the floor holding their heads. But the entity still did not cross. It recoiled like a beast touching fire. Not again! It hissed, and the entire galaxy froze at the sound. The red species leader gasped. It's remembering. It fears a memory of humanity. The ambassador's voice shook. But what memory? The alien stepped closer to the main holoscreen, staring deeply into the swirling blackness of the creature. Whatever you faced before, he said quietly, you scarred it so deeply that the wound still burns. Human scientists rapidly scanned the creature's energy signature. Their eyes widened in shock. Admiral, one shouted. There's a resonance, some kind of echo inside the entity. Something left inside it long ago. And that signature is human. The room went silent. A human signature, inside a creature older than galaxies. Impossible. Terrifying. True. At that exact moment, the predator entity unleashed a surge of gravity so powerful that human ships were thrown backward. Space itself bent like fabric stretched to its limit. Entire sectors went dark. Stars dimmed. Civilian comms went silent. And then, beneath all that destruction, a whisper. Soft, afraid, broken. I will not let you rise again. Humans shivered. The red species leader closed his eyes in pain. Even the strongest alien generals watching from afar felt hopeless. The entity spoke once more, voice shaking with hatred and fear. You are the only species that defies death. You are the only ones who break the rules of existence. Human officers were stunned. What rules? The red leader answered, eyes glowing with fear. You do not evolve like the rest of us. You change too fast. You adapt too fast. You survive things no other species can. The universe wrote its own laws, and humanity refused to follow them. The chamber felt colder. The red leader continued, voice soft and broken. Your ancestors, the ones before recorded time, they stood against it. They did something no species had ever done. They damaged it. They pushed it back. They made it fear for the first and only time. He looked directly into the human ambassador's eyes, voice trembling with awe and sorrow. You gave the universe hope once, and the creature never forgave you. Outside the ship, the predator entity roared, an emotion so powerful that even distant colonies felt it in their hearts. Children cried without knowing why. Animals hid. Stars flickered. The entity pressed closer again, and the border of human space glowed faintly with invisible energy. A barrier not built by machines, but by something deeper, something alive. The creature recoiled violently. It screamed in their minds. That spark, the one that once burned me, it still lives in you. The galaxy felt the fear behind those words. Humanity felt the burden. The red species felt hope for the first time. Terran Command realized the truth. Humanity did not choose to be the galaxy's last chance. Fate chose them. Fear marked them. History scarred them. And now, once again, the darkness had come, not to conquer the galaxy, but to destroy humanity first. Because the thing in the dark knew one terrifying truth. The predator entity hovered outside human space like a wound in reality, twisting the stars around itself as if the universe were bending away in fear. Human fleets lay scattered but still standing, not because of strength, not because of weapons, but because the creature refused to cross the invisible boundary it once failed to conquer. The lights flickered across the Solstice's command center as if the ship itself were breathing through panic. Officers stood trembling, not from physical injury, but from the raw pressure of the entity's presence. Every human heart pounded with the same silent question. What did our ancestors do to this creature? What scar did we leave? What truth have we forgotten? The red species leader stood shakily, tears of glowing light streaming down his face. He had run from this monster across 12 galaxies, losing everything he ever loved. Yet for the first time he felt something he thought had died long ago. Hope. Weak, trembling, fragile hope, but hope nonetheless. Terran Command opened all channels. Human fleets, broken but unyielding, aligned their ships. Civilians held hands in shelters and stared at darkened skies. Entire worlds across human space went silent as if all of humanity inhaled the same breath. Then the predator entity spoke. Not into their ears, not into their minds, but into their souls. You survived once, but not again. I will finish what I began millennia ago. Humans staggered as if struck. Some fell to their knees. Some screamed quietly. Some simply froze, because suddenly, a wave of memory, faint, broken, incomplete, rippled through the human subconscious. A battlefield, a burning sky, a creature made of stars. Humans standing before it, not with weapons, but with something deeper, something powerful, something alive. The vision vanished as quickly as it came. Humans gasped, shaking. Did anyone else see that? A human officer whispered. Others nodded slowly, unable to form words. The red species leader stared at them in awe. It is inside you, the memory of your ancestors. You truly did face it once. The human ambassador swallowed hard. But how did we win? How did we survive? The alien answered in a trembling voice. Not through strength, not through ships, not through war. He paused. You survived because you refused to die, because your kind adapts when all others fall, because you evolve when the universe says you cannot. The predator entity moved again, pulling their attention back to the screen. The creature twisted and shuddered, its shadowed form vibrating with a hatred so deep it felt like the collapse of time. Humanity? It growled. I watched your ancestors crawl out of death. I watched them rise when existence itself rejected them. I watched them grow from nothing into something that could wound me. The screen flickered violently. You should have stayed in the grave I made for you. Human fleets braced. The entity surged forward. Space itself cracked at the border, bending under unimaginable pressure. Time rippled. Gravity fell apart. Stars dimmed. The creature pushed, roared, forced itself against the invisible barrier. And then, an explosion of white light erupted from the border of human space. A wave, not physical, not energy, not radiation, but something deeper. Something that felt like life itself. Something ancient. Something old as humanity. A pulse. A heartbeat. A spark. It spread across the entire border, forming a giant shimmering barrier. The predator entity recoiled violently, screaming in a way no living creature should be able to scream. Human screens shattered. Consoles exploded. Officers shielded their eyes. But still they watched. The creature was afraid, terrified. The red species leader fell to his knees, sobbing. That light? It's the same light from the ancient records. The one the entity feared. The one your ancestors used. Human scientists scrambled to analyze the sudden burst. Their computers returned a single shocking result. Energy signature. Human genome. Activated. The room froze. What? How? Officers shouted. A scientist trembled as he explained. It came from every human mind connected emotionally at the same moment. The fear. The unity. The refusal to surrender. It triggered something inside the human genetic code, something dormant. The Red Leader's voice broke with awe. You carry the same spark that once wounded the darkness. Not a weapon, not a machine, a force inside your very existence. The Predator entity roared again, louder, more desperate. No, I will not fear you again. It forced itself toward the light, pushing through agonizing resistance. The space around it shattered like glass. Time warped. Ships buckled. Humans fell to the ground, gripping their hearts. But humanity did not break. Because something inside every human, soldier, child, elder, scientist, civilian, began to glow. Not physically, but emotionally. A stunning unity formed across their species. A collective strength. A force born not from anger, not from hate, but from refusal. Refusal to die. Refusal to bow. Refusal to surrender. And that force, that spark, that ancient fragment of power, rose again. A second pulse, brighter, stronger, shot across human space. The glow intensified until the entire galaxy could see it. The Predator entity shrieked in agony. Not again. The light struck it, ripping through its shadowed form. Its edges dissolved like burning smoke. The creature twisted, flailed, screamed, its voice shaking entire constellations. Then a final burst of light, a blast of impossible force. The entity's form tore apart, collapsing into fragments of fading darkness that scattered into the void like dying embers. Silence. True silence. For the first time in billions of years, the Predator entity was gone. Human space dimmed slowly, returning to normal light. Systems flickered back online. Ships stabilized. Officers lifted their heads. Civilians took their first breaths. The Red Species leader stared at the fading darkness, tears of joy glowing on his cheeks. You did it, he whispered. Your ancestors' spark still lives within you. The universe was right to fear you, and we were right to trust you. Humanity stood in stunned silence, unable to speak, unable to process the truth. They had saved themselves. They had saved the galaxy. They had awakened something ancient inside them. Something powerful. Something unstoppable. Something feared by the darkness itself. The galaxy recorded a new truth that day. Humanity is not the weakest. Humanity is not the youngest. Humanity is the species that refuses to die. And in every empire, every world, every corner of the universe, a single whispered message echoed.